Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here with Adam Balderstone. And today we're going to be talking about Obsession, the movie Obsession, but we're also going to be talking about another group of movies as well that I watched. I watched a bunch of movies in the past 3 weeks, and so we selected a handful that we thought we would talk about. And so those are probably going to include My Cousin Vinny, Frankenstein Unbound, The Omen, The Untouchables, and GoldenEye, and if we have time, the Mothman prophecies. I don't know how if we blaze through these in 2 seconds, we'll get there.
There's something for everybody.
Yeah. And we're just doing a casual podcast today because we haven't done one in a while, so we're just trying to get back into the groove before we get another one up with me, Adam, and Joel talking about a specific film. And so I guess we can kind of get right into it because what ended up happening was. I think Obsession ended up on streaming not too long ago, and so I ended up watching it. And then I mentioned it to Adam, and he ended up watching it. And it is, what has it been, about a week since we saw this movie? Is it?
Yeah, about a week.
Yeah. So I don't know how people who follow the show. When it's been a week, we're a little bit that's when we start to get fuzzy on these films. So this is not going to be a thorough deep dive into the movie. But we are going to talk about what we thought about it and things like that. So, and for people who don't know, it's a 2025 film by Curry Barker. He has a YouTube channel that Adam is constantly sending me clips from this channel. So, it's mostly like a two-man sketch show, wouldn't you say? That's kind of what they do. I mean, yeah, they sometimes have other people in it.
Curry.
But the specialty is a two-man sketch show, and you really see that in Obsession when they have scenes between two people. Like it's that's you can tell that's where he's really honed his dialogue skills. But anyways, I don't know. I guess we can give people the breakdown, the plot. He basically goes to like a spiritualist shop and buys this novelty, One Wish Willow product, and he wishes for a woman to love him like more than anyone else in the world. And then it just turns into this horrible, horrible thing. It's like a monkey's paw type situation. And apparently, it's not actually based on the monkey's paw. It's based on the Simpsons version of the monkey's paw. So we're kind of like we're like one step removed from the original in terms of source material. But yeah, so that's the basics of it. And again, I don't know, Adam, what were your thoughts seeing this movie? Because you told me a little bit about what you thought of it, but we didn't go into great detail.
Yeah, I enjoyed this movie. I mean, as Brendan's brought up, I am a fan of the people that made it before I saw this movie. I should, just because that does have an effect on my opinion on it. I mean, the thing is, their YouTube material is straightforward comedy for the most part. They do have some horror stuff. Honestly, I keep meaning to watch. There's an hour-long YouTube horror movie they made, and I never get around to watching it. So I really should have done that. Now I think about it. But putting that aside, I like this movie. I think it was really promising. I mean, I don't think it's like one of the greatest horror movies ever, but it's really solid. The performances are fantastic. The directing is fantastic. I feel like the pacing, is a little slow in the middle. That's kind of, I think, what makes it not, top tier horror. But there's so much done well in this movie. I'm really, and this being a first movie, you don't often see first movies that are this good. So I'm very, very excited to see where they're going forward from here.
Yeah, I was impressed with it. I was especially impressed with the woman that played, what was her name, Nikki? Is that the one that he's in love with, Nikki? I was very impressed with the performance because I think so much hinged on it, and I liked that it was kind of this interesting thing where it's almost not really even Nikki. It's like there's another entity that kind of emerges when he makes the wish or something, or it was maybe like a play. I don't know if you remember the movie Get Out, but I forget what they called the place, like the sinking place. There was a place that the woman sent him to when he got hypnotized, and I was like, okay, maybe it's something like that, where like it's like a part of her personality is being pushed in the background, and a more surface level part of it is being brought up or something. But either way, it was an interesting idea, and if I had a criticism, it would be similar to yours. I wasn't bothered by the pacing, but what I was a little bothered by was something that is pretty much ubiquitous with all horror movies now, which is the mood and atmosphere and tone is always the same from beginning to... It's always... I always feel like somebody's pressing on like a low note on a synthesizer to maintain this steady sense of darkness throughout the whole thing. In its defense, I'll say, even though it did do that like other movies, it also had a lot of... There were definitely flashes of humor in the film. And even when they weren't like making an actual joke that was supposed to make you laugh, some of the situations were kind of funny overall. Do you know what I mean? The guy who won the $1 billion, not won, who wished for the $1 billion, right? Like that was funny. Yeah. And when he runs back in and he's talking about how the wishes work, and then she shoots him. So I feel like the overall, even though it is a horror movie, I feel like you could definitely see it. There's kind of like an underlying joke to the whole thing. Do you know what I mean? It's not scary. It wasn't like a super scary horror movie, even though some of the depictions in the movie were pretty horrifying.
There's some real graphic violence in this movie in places.
But it felt almost like the first Evil Dead. Do you know what I mean? Or something like that kind of, it's not perfect, but there's going to be something great coming from this person in the future. Yeah. So, but I liked it, and I was surprised. The Andy Richter cameo was pretty surprising. And I don't know. I just was, and also I think that they did some interesting things. Like you kind of saw things coming, but you also didn't. Like again, I'm going to spoil stuff because we have to talk about it. But there's another woman that's like in love with him during the movie named Sarah. And just at I was literally texting Adam this as I was watching it. So I think because he finished it before I did, because I had to stop midway through for a little bit. And I think I typed to him, "Oh, that's Sarah. Sarah's not so bad. Like maybe he should pick Sarah." And then she gets her head smashed in with a brick or something. I can't remember exactly what it is. She gets her head smashed in on it's really over the top. Is the point? She gets obliterated.
Yeah, I think it's the steering wheel and something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it was but I was kind of shocked by that moment. But at the same time, it was also not like as shocking as it was. It was so thorough. It was funny too. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like because it's funny because a lot of the conversations I've seen about this movie have been. They treat it like a really serious thing. Like they're like having these really serious discussions about, what it's about. And it's like I think it's like half a joke. This movie, like the performances are very real, but it's so over the top.
There's a lot of weird humor. I mean, the thing is, there's this kind of. If we go back to their comedy sketches on YouTube, there is kind of a weird sensibility to them that I feel carries over to this movie to an extent. Like especially like the store where he buys the one Willow-Wish, that feels complete. Like the scenes in those feel very much like one of their YouTube sketches.
Yeah, because they have sketches like that where the guy goes into a bar or to a Starbucks and orders, and it felt. I agree, especially the second time he goes in. And the guy's like, "You can't come in here with this energy, man." And also the way he's like, just how glib they are about that the One Wish Willow is a real thing. Like the guy's like, "Yeah, it's right over." Like, because at first he's like, "What One Wish Willow?" He's like, "No, it's right over there. I'm just messing with you." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I got my wish." And it's also kind of funny because it's like, okay, like clearly like the wish works out for some people. Then like it was
It really honestly with their next movie I'd kind of like them to see them go in a more straightforward comedic direction, because I feel like that's really their ultimate strength. And apparently they are. From what I've heard, their next movie is going to be kind of a ghost hunter movie where they play ghost hunters who get caught up in some real supernatural situation, which I'm like, that actually sounds like really good fit for them, kind of a Frighteners type thing.
I think that would be better because honestly, I think the thing that was really holding this together was the comedic elements, even when they weren't super clear. Like even when it felt like the movie was trying to be serious, and it's still like, okay, but this is like a super ridiculous premise. You know, I think that that'll be better for them, because I think if they keep going in the serious direction, I think you are going to start seeing chinks in the armor in terms of like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like don't get me wrong, like I think he's a very good director, but I think I think if you're going to make a horror movie that's based on the Simpsons version of the Monkey's Paw rather than the original monkey, like not you know what I mean? Like the foundations aren't as strong in terms. So I think leaning more into an Evil Dead 2 type thing would be a better way forward for them.
Yeah, I think too. You know, I mean, one thing to consider is that he's probably going to have more creative freedom on the next movie, because this was an enormous hit. Yeah. So, because the thing is, you got to factor in that. I mean, this was a horror movie studio. This was part of a horror imprint. So it's like his job was to make a horror movie. So I feel like to an extent he wouldn't have had as much freedom to like go as comedically as he usually would. So. You know, whereas I feel like next time he's probably got a blank check to do whatever he wants, and that's going to be very interesting. This is still very good movie. Not a good movie, not a very good movie, but a good movie.
The other thing that I really like too is because I've been watching that YouTube channel, because you've been sending me the clips of it and stuff. I think the guy's name is...
That's the only reason you watch.
Well, but the guy named Cooper Tomlinson, that's the guy that plays his friend, right? I think that guy is very likable, and I'm glad that they had him in such a big role in this movie, because when I saw the ads, I was like, oh, like they just gave him a minor part just to kind of, you know, because he's like the guy's friend. So I'm kind of glad that he was able to get a prominent role in the film, and I think that they have really good chemistry. So if they go that more comedic direction, I hope that like we get to see both of them kind of doing, you know what I mean? Because I think the director, his only Curry Barker, his only role was the guy in the phone, right? He was the the customer service guy. So, that was another scene that was very comedic. Like you could tell, like this is written by a comedic guy, not like like a straight up horror guy.
Yes.
So
once again, that goes back to the store and the One Willow Wish. It's part of that same supply chain, basically. That's where all the comedy in a lot of the comedy in the movie's coming from.
Yeah. So yeah, I know I had a fun time watching it, and also I think a lot of it also has to do with, you know, my feeling on like more recent horrors. A lot of it just is not good. I don't like it, and I think again, I think I keep going back to the humor, but I just don't like movies that make me feel one mood all the time, the whole time way through. I like having
I get it. I think you're. No, I think you're totally right, actually. Now I think about it, I think it was the pacing in the middle, but I think it was as much the mood in the middle, because it does, you know, because I mean, you know, to put it in the terms I learned, you know, with acting, it's like you have emotional beats, you know, and you have a beat change. Every time the emotion changes, that's called a beat change. Yeah. And you're right, there weren't a lot of beat changes in the middle. We were kind of in that weird state with him. Like I feel like the movie really picked up when they went out to the party, and she kind of goes nuts at the party, and then the movie kind of rockets towards the end of the movie from there on. It's exciting, but there is just this middle point where nothing changes much.
Well, and it's not necessarily his fault, because that's the way movies are made now. Like horror movies always look that way, and the way I would describe it is they're just constantly building tension and never releasing it. Do you know what I mean? Like that's just how it feels to me. And I find that number one, I find that uncomfortable because you're tense the whole time. But I also don't equate being tense with experiencing horror or fear. So I feel like it's just I feel like it's a cheap way of denoting to the viewer you're in a horror movie because there's a low note we have like these dissonant notes in the background playing constantly, and the moody imagery, and I mean, there's definitely a place for those things, but you have to alternate. And again, that's why I think the humor really helped this one, because even though stylistically it was doing the things a modern horror movie does, it was still creating like a sense of, okay, now I'm laughing, now I'm having these different emotions as I'm watching.
Yeah, going with your point, I think that's the reason why I like horror movies and comedy movies for that point to
Yeah.
be short. It's like
Yeah.
I generally want them to be around an hour and a half because both horror and comedy, by definition, are trying to make you experience the same emotion for the whole time,
Yeah.
whether it's laughing or being scared.
Yeah.
And you get tired of that after a while. It wears off.
And in our segue to the next topic, that's going to be a really good point. So I want to hang on to that.
Okay.
And the only thing I'll say is, I mean, obviously there might be exceptions for me. Like I love Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola, and that has kind of a consistent tone. There is like humor and stuff like that, but I think the reason why I like that is because that's so unique looking. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
they're doing something so different. And so it's like, but when I watch a lot of modern horror movies, it's like, well, they all look the same, and they're all just maintaining the same level of tension the whole way through, and that's where I kind of find myself having some issues. But on the point you just made, I watched My Cousin Vinny with my wife over the weekend, and that's a 1992 comedy movie. I hadn't seen it since it came out, and I'm sure I'm probably not even operating on memories anymore. I'm probably operating on just how much that movie got quoted and shown as clips on TV and different. So I'm probably even operating on like second generation cultural memories of the thing. But what was interesting to me is that's kind of like right before or right around the time of the Jim Carrey explosion, which I've also been watching. And just this shift in the 90s to like, I don't know what you would call it, but there's probably a term for it, but like we shifted to a style of comedy where you were laughing the whole way through the movie. It's just joke after joke. And there wasn't as much, sorry about that. There wasn't as much focus on story and keeping the story going and threading the story into the comedy. And when you don't focus on the story as much, when the story is like Ace Ventura, right? You're more free to just have it all be jokes.
Yes.
And so just your point about how it's exhausting to watch like a 2 hour and 30-minute comedy movie. When I was watching My Cousin Vinny, one of the things that struck me is this is a movie that's still kind of tethered to that era of, it's a comedy, but it's also like they're also trying to make a movie that tells a good story and has characters that are very fleshed out, and there's all these other things going on. It's not a joke a minute. If you watch it now and you're accustomed to movies like Old School or Tropic Thunder, you're going to watch it and you'll be like, oh, this isn't actually that funny because the jokes are kind of coming every so often, or the joke is more the situation itself overall is kind of humorous. Do you know what I mean? Or the way Vinny said this thing is kind of funny, but there's not actually a joke there. So it was just interesting that it never really occurred to me that the style of comedy itself was also so different, and obviously it came in different waves and stuff too, because we did have really goofy comedy movies back in the day as well. But
I'd equate it closer to like a Coen Brothers comedy to an extent, where like the comedy's just coming out of all the characters and the way the characters interact, and yeah, I mean, it's that would be the category I would put it in.
And the other thing too is the thing that I liked about it was now if they did that movie, Vinny would just be so stupid all the time. Do you know what I mean? He would just be a complete dumb. He would be like a cast member from Jersey Shore or something. Do you know what I mean? It would just, and they definitely do sort of do like I don't know if he was actually supposed to be from New Jersey or not in the movie, but they do like the Jersey New York thing. But but he is, at the end of the day, he is like a smart guy. He's just kind of rough around the edges and like definitely not like familiar with the expectations of a court, and they even bake that into the plot. It's his first court case in the movie. That's why he's so doesn't really know what to do. But it's the same with all of the other characters, like even like the sheriff and the judge, who are kind they all kind of get their due. They're not, every character is almost likable by the end of the movie. Do you know what I mean? It's not like the sheriff is there just to be a jerk to them. It's not like the judge is there just to be a jerk to them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of interesting about it. But I don't know. I know it's been a while since you. When did you say you saw it last? Like 5 years ago or something? Or
Well, I saw it earlier this year, but before
okay,
that, it would have been back when it was probably in the theater. It
okay.
was the last
So
time I saw it.
what was your reaction going back to it?
Oh, it's just great. I mean, it's just a really enjoyable, satisfying movie. I mean, it came on TV, and it wasn't like I was like, I didn't put it on to decide to watch it. It's
Yeah.
just, I kind of walked downstairs, it was on the TV, it had just started, and I kind of stood there for a few minutes, then I sat down, and then, yeah, I just watched the whole movie. It was,
Okay.
yeah, so no, I think it's great. I live in New Jersey, I should mention, so
Okay.
just the whole tone of the characters. It's funny. I mean, it's the kind of thing you can, there's, as you say, if they made it now, they would just make him stupid, they
Yeah.
belittle him. It's like now, I mean, the movie that was made then, it's like it's the kind of thing you could, New Jersey people can find it entertaining. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's jokes about New Jersey, but it's New Jersey people. It's fun. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not just pure insulting or anything.
And they're not just constantly saying gabagool and like all of these things that
they're both plausible people from New
Yeah,
Jersey.
yeah,
I feel.
yeah, like they're colorful characters for sure, but like they're believable as people, right? Like,
Yes, yeah, and you like them. They're both very likable characters too. I mean, that's something Hollywood forgets a lot now. It's like, oh yeah, you're supposed to actually, relate or like like characters to some extent. But
well, yeah, because even with the girlfriend, like I'm sure now, if somebody hadn't seen it in a long time, they would just remember the Marissa Tomei character as like his dumb girlfriend. But in the movie, you know what I mean. Like,
she's smart.
yeah, she's very smart. She knows there's a whole plot beat about her, knowing about mechanics and cars and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so it, is again, I think they just kind of made like none of the characters feel like very dim-witted. You know what I mean? Like
No.
like a lot of movies, the characters will just they'll behave stupidly because they have to keep the plot going, and that doesn't really happen in this movie.
It's not even just comedies nowadays, to be honest. It feels like basically every writer in Hollywood just has contempt for their characters.
Yeah. There's a little bit of that too. This I really like because you can tell that the guy who wrote it, and I think what else did he write? Because he wrote some other movies that were kind of interesting and good. Hold on, let me look this up while
I don't know, actually. Yeah.
He wrote Ruthless People, I think. Was it Ruthless People that he wrote?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
There's a movie I haven't seen since the 80s.
Dale Launer.
Yeah, I should revisit that.
Yeah, he wrote Ruthless People, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Blind Date, which I have not seen in ages, Love Potion number 9, which I also have not seen in a very long time. And then it looks like he took a long hiatus before coming back for Tom's New Heaven and then The Hustle. But I mean, Ruthless People, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and My Cousin Vinny are all very good movies. Do you know what I mean? I would probably put My Cousin Vinny at the top of the list.
Wait, what was the three again? I'm sorry.
So Ruthless People, which I mean that was a really good film. I haven't seen it in a long time, so I can't say whether it holds up well or not. But I remember as a kid loving that movie, and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which is another one that I remember loving, but I don't know if I saw it now as an adult if I feel exactly the same, but I do remember liking it. And My Cousin Vinny, which I think is just kind of one of these movies that I think because the story is so good and the courtroom scenes are so good, it just all works, But yeah, that I do agree with you. I think there would be a tendency now to maybe not like the characters, and this guy just really seems to like his characters. Do you know what I mean? Like, even when they're weird and strange and have flaws, it's like he's interested in them. He's not just raking them through the coals. And I think that's kind of the difference between good characterization and bad. If the character is just your punching bag for something, that's different than
and the movie, it's a clever mystery too. I mean, it comes together at the end. Everything. It's a satisfying final court scene and everything. I mean, it just works on every single level.
That was why I wanted to talk initially about the whole idea of like comparing it to these late. And again, I'm not shitting on like Jim Carrey comedies because I love those kind of comedies, but just the whole idea of, well, this is just kind of an excuse to like hang jokes on versus this, because what I noticed when we were watching it was I am really captivated by this courtroom drama that's going on, and I've stopped tracking how often I'm laughing. Do you know what I mean? Like that became less and less important as the movie was going on.
Yes.
So anyways, the next movie I want to talk about. This is one, to me, this is a really special movie. And it's a movie that I only saw once in the 90s. I must have rented it at Blockbuster in like 91 or 92. And it's Roger Corman's Frankenstein Unbound. Now this is one of these movies like nobody knows about it. Like I know it has a cult following, but like if you mention it to people, they just look at you like you have, you have three heads. It's not a film that people recognize. It's a very weird movie. So the plot is there's a guy named Dr. Buchanan. It's the year 2031, I think, and he's inventing a super weapon, and the energy beam from the super weapon creates a time disruption. When we saw it when I was younger, we called it the time vulva. It's this scar in the sky that opens up that just creates these time slips, and so things kind of slip through. Things can slip, in both directions, and at some point he gets sent back through it to Switzerland in 1817 or something like. Yeah, I think 1817, 1816, when Mary Shelley is writing Frankenstein, and he ends up meeting Dr. Frankenstein and then Dr. Frankenstein's creature, and he realizes that Mary Shelley is getting all of her ideas from this court case that is going on around the murder of the boy by Justine, and so. And then there's the plot gets really wild towards the end, and but it's just a very, I don't know what you thought of it. I know you didn't see the whole thing, but I'm curious what your reaction to this movie was.
Yeah, I didn't see the whole thing. I should bring up, I've been really sick for the last week, which is why we're only getting to Obsession now, because I haven't been up to it. So yeah. So the reason I only watched half wasn't because I wasn't enjoying it. It was just simply I was like, I can't watch anymore. But yeah, it is a crazy, weird movie. I am intrigued to go back and see how it ends. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a summation, but having not seen the end, it's hard. But it's a good cast, very good cast. Is something that struck me. I mean, Raul Julia and John Hurt. But yeah, I don't know. What I'll say is I recommend people giving it a look.
Yeah, and it's not available on streaming services and stuff, but people keep putting it up on YouTube, so you can get it that way. You can get a DVD. And I should say, John Hurt plays Joe Buchanan, who's like the narrator and the main character, and Raul Julia actually plays Victor Frankenstein, which I thought was really interesting. Number one, because when the new Frankenstein came out, people kept talking about how they were talking about how he was like the first Latino Frankenstein, and it's like, no, we had Raul Julia before we had this. So. And also Bridget Fonda is Mary. I don't particularly like Bridget Fonda, to be completely honest, but she's Mary Shelley, which is interesting, and I don't remember who else is there. Oh, Michael Hutchins has a cameo as Percy Shelley, which is very jarring.
Oh, that's Michael. I don't know why I didn't pick up on that. That is Michael Hutchins, totally, yeah.
And it's also...
It wasn't jarring, so I didn't recognize him. But.
It's also cool because he has a futuristic car that's kind of like Kit from Knight Rider and has like access to all this information. So it's I don't know.
It's a combination, It's a combination of Kit and the car from Back to the Future. But,
and the only difference is it can't actually take him through time. It's but obviously they were thinking of Back to the Future when they picked the car. Like, there's no question that's what was on their mind. And I don't know. I think it's a really good movie. I didn't know how it was going to hold up because I hadn't seen it since like 91, 92, and I was surprised how good of a movie it was. I thought it was going to end up looking like a made-for-TV movie. You know, what I mean, that was my big fear was, oh, this is going to just look like a crappy. But it was like, no, this is like, it's not like the greatest movie in the world. It's you know, it's not like the biggest production, but it looked good, and the story held my attention from beginning to end. And Raul Julia was really good as Victor Frankenstein. I liked the scenes with him and John Hurt. Just seeing him and John Hurt together on screen, it's like, oh, there's a movie with the two of them together. Do you know what I mean? Like that. So, and maybe there's another one that is slipping my mind, but yeah. So
And I look at the movie too. Something that struck me is the scenery is so nice. They shot it in a location in Europe, and it really is a surprisingly good looking movie for something I expected. You know, it's basically kind of a B movie category kind of sci-fi thing.
Yeah, and it's also such a weird concept. Is it based on who was the author? Aldous, was that the name of the?
Brian Aldous.
Yeah, I haven't read the book, so I don't know how different it is from the source material. Maybe somebody who's read it can weigh in. I didn't even know it was a book until I saw it this past week, because I don't know if it was this past week or the week before, but I didn't even bother to look into whether it was a book when I first saw the movie. I just assumed it was like a wild thing that they came up with for the film.
I've read a few other books by him, which is the reason I knew that was a book by him when you mentioned the movie.
Now, how would you rate him as a sci-fi author? Do you like him?
He's very good.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, two books that I've read are Nonstop, which is kind of the classic book about people on a multi-generational spaceship that have descended back to barbarism and don't know they're on a spaceship, and that's not Hot House, which is set in the very far future. But yeah, they're both very good.
I mean, this is a pretty it's kind of like that book Mina. I don't know if you remember that coming out. The one where somebody basically wrote, I think it was like I can't even remember if it was a sequel to Dracula or a reimagining of Dracula from Mina's perspective. I do remember reading it when it came out. People were doing stuff like that in like the 90s and
the 80s. It sounds... Yeah. It's a very 90s kind of concept.
I think this book came out in the 70s, though. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
But yeah, I thought it was a good movie. You know, it's a Roger Corman movie. It's a late Roger Corman movie, but still a Roger Corman movie. And I don't know. I thought it was just a very interesting concept. The next movie, which I watched last night with my wife. I've seen it before, but was The Omen, which I think is a terrific film. Obviously, like The Omen kind of pairs well with a movie like The Exorcist, and The Exorcist is one of my favorite movies. And so, in fact, let me pull up the information on it if we're going to mention anything. But yeah, I don't know. You said you saw The Omen not too long ago, right? Was that?
Yeah, a couple of months ago I watched it. So I hadn't seen it in, I don't even know, maybe even since the 80s. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I was surprised at how good it is. Because I mean, it is kind of a fairly linear story. Everything just happens in this predictable fashion. So in my memory of the movie, I'm like, okay, I kind of know everything. I didn't see a lot of value in rewatching it, but it's done so well that the inevitability just creates this feeling of dread through the whole thing as everything goes wrong through the whole movie, and it really holds your attention.
So this is a spoiler, but my wife has seen a lot of horror movies with me, and she'll get scared, but what was it she was saying? So there's a scene where somebody gets their head cut off, and it's a very graphic scene, and she just kept saying, "Oh man, oh my god." Oh my god! She just kept repeating. I'd never seen her react that way to a scene in a movie, and I don't think it was just because it was graphic. I think it was because she was so invested in the story and in that character. And the thing is, she knew it was going to happen, because the moment before it happened, she said, "Oh, he's going to die now." So it was.
Everything's predictable.
Yeah.
Die, but.
Hold on, I'm getting Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I don't know. Something popped up on my. I think I hit a button on my mic, and something popped up on my thing. So I'm sorry. Can you just say what you were saying? Because I think I might have, whatever that was, might have interfered with what you're saying.
I have no idea what I said 30 seconds ago, sadly.
Okay. Well. Oh no, you were just saying how you can see everything coming in the movie, but it's still effective. I think.
Oh, I think it's the last thing I said. I don't think you missed anything.
Okay. But yeah, so I mean, I had a great time watching it, and I'm always surprised by how good of a movie, because when I remember it, I always remember it as like not being as well made as The Exorcist for some reason, like kind of like just a very straightforward thing. But then when I watch it, I'm like, no, this was very well done. Like, this is a very good, like, there's especially certain scenes, like the graveyard scene, do you know what I mean? And there was another scene, just the whole thing with Mrs. Baylock and all that, just just how she just gets increasingly more in control of everything. And the dogs, the use of the dogs in this movie is terrifying. I think this is like maybe the best use of dogs in a horror movie.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
Yeah, I mean, certainly better than Cujo. And,
I'm not a fan of Cujo.
What is the deal? Because I'm not the Stephen King aficionado that you and Joel are. So what is the deal with like why I've noticed that a lot of people are down on Cujo. Is there a particular reason for that?
I don't know. I mean, it's a 500-page book about watching a kid die in a car. I mean, it's not. I haven't read it since I was a teenager, but it's just like it's not really an experience I care to repeat.
Okay, that's and so the next, unless there's anything else you want to add on The Omen.
On The Omen, no. I think I made my point.
So the next movie that we watched, and this was a little while ago now, so I'm probably going to be more fuzzy, was The Untouchables, the Brian De Palma movie. And it's funny, I've sort of avoided rewatching The Untouchables like the plague, because it came out in 87, and it's like the most 1987 Brian De Palma movie, which is like a stupid thing to say, you know what I mean? But it feels so keyed to the time, and it's got Kevin Costner in it, which kind of pins it to the time too. And my memory of that, like 1987 to 1990, just always felt like kind of an odd period in movie making. There were some good movies for sure, but I felt like some of the more graphic gangster style movies were starting to get really filed down. Do you know what I mean? At that time, like you think of Scarface, and Scarface seems so much more extravagant in my memory than a movie like The Untouchables. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But I will say, like, going back and watching it, like, I really forgot what a good movie it was. Do you know what I mean? Like just the way that they recreate that whole time period. The Andy Garcia was really good in it, and I feel like I blamed. Because he's in The Godfather 3, I think some of my disdain for that movie trickled down to his performance and I really like the dynamic between him and Sean Connery. You can almost get rid of Kevin Costner in The Untouchables, and if you just make it about him and Andy Garcia and Sean Connery, I think you have a much better much better
I like
film.
The Accountant too. The Accountant.
The Accountant. So let's talk about The Accountant. The thing I like about The Accountant is Brian De Palma does this thing where he keeps telling you what he's going to do throughout the whole movie. Like he bats you over the head with it, and then you're still somehow kind of surprised and amazed when it all comes together. Carlito's Way is probably the most, the most obvious case of him doing that, where it's like he literally shows you the ending, and then the rest of the movie.
Which movie? I'm sorry, I didn't catch the title.
Carlito's Way. Carlito's Way.
Okay, yes.
But in this one, it's like the accountant's like, oh, we got to look into his hey, he's doing this, and he keeps bringing it up, and then they finally do it, and then the poor accountant ends up getting shot in the elevator, and it's actually really disheartening, because he's like the most likable sort of goofball, weak sort of character, and like he's not like he's not like Sean Connery. When Sean Connery dies, he almost kind of has it coming. You know what I mean? It's like it's like you expect a character like that to get shot. The accountant you don't expect to get shot.
The other thing too is how well they play that. 'Cause like you say, it is very disheartening when he gets killed. But of course, the big rooftop scene at the end, you know, it's like that feeds off your emotion about that.
Yeah.
You really feel that is so satisfying.
Well,
it's
and I was ragging on Kevin Costner, but to see Kevin Costner do that in that moment, because that's the thing. When I was watching that scene this time around, I was like, I couldn't remember how it ended, and I was like, oh, he's just gonna book him because it's like a 1987 gangster movie, and then he throws him off the roof, and I was like, oh, okay, like, you know. And also, I mean, and the scales kind of fell off my eyes a bit too in the scene when I realized how graphic the Sean Connery scene is when he gets shot and all that, you know. You know, and also just his burning hatred for Italians in his final moments. It was, I don't know, it just made me laugh. I know people. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You go ahead. I kind of stopped.
I was gonna say, like, people give him hell for like not pulling off the Irish accent all that well, but I don't know. I'm an American. I can barely tell that. Like if it's a,
I can tell, and I just didn't care.
Yeah,
I'm just like, whatever.
And also, it's Sean Connery, so it's like it would be worse if it were an American doing a bad Irish accent, but a Scotsman doing a bad Irish accent. It's like, okay, whatever. That's close enough for me.
And that was kind of when Sean Connery was at the height of his post-Bond career too. So he was just, you know, but I mean, to give my thoughts on it. You know, one thing, I lived in Chicago for 10 years, so the Chicago scene, it just really makes Chicago look fantastic. And I mean, the score, the Ennio Morricone score is so good. It's so good, and it works so well in this movie. The score and the movie combined.
Before I forget, one of the things I really liked about the score is how he changed the theme when it's the same theme, but when he goes to Al Capone's hotel and shows the inside, it starts getting very like uneven, and it's just it changes, so you know, okay, now we're in a criminal underworld, and it was
jangly.
It was very clever. I mean, Ennio Morricone's great in every movie. Even in like Hamlet and Wolf, but it was a very memorable soundtrack. But I'm sorry, go on. I just wanted to point that out.
Let's see.
I'm sorry. I should have waited till after.
But no, I.
But you were saying how you were saying how like you're from Chicago. You were in Chicago for a period of time.
I know what I was going to say. Sorry, I had a similar reaction to you. Like, I saw it in the theater. I really enjoyed it. I remember walking out with my friends. It was a big summer blockbuster movie. We were excited. I never watched it again. And I think in my brain, it just became a disposable blockbuster movie, which to a degree it is, but it's such a good blockbuster, So I think part of it was the fact it's so, it's historical accuracy. It doesn't really care at all. It's just kind of its own ridiculous story. And, I was kind of just getting that teenage age where I was nitpicky about things like that too. But no, it's just a great movie. I highly recommend it.
And I also know for a fact I saw it on video, not in the theater, and so I probably wasn't getting the full effect of it, because I saw it at my friend Matt's house right when we rented it right when it came out as a new release. I remember watching it in his den. So
I think my other thought too. I watched it with my nephews, who are all teenagers, and man, they were so into it. I mean, I remember how much they hated that hitman. It was like every time he came on screen,
he's so unlikable. They did that guy was perfectly cast. It was just, and he had all the right lines, just the right amount of, just self-satisfied. He kind of embodied all of the corruption that was going on. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was sort of like he was like the symbol of the cops' inability to penetrate the criminal underworld and actually get anything done. So I thought the rooftop scene was one of the most cathartic moments in movies.
Yeah, and I was just fantastic. But it was a really enjoyable experience watching
And
that again.
and my wife loved it. Because I actually showed it to her because we had seen the Naked Gun movies, and I think in the second or third Naked Gun, they parody the scene in the train station with the baby
Yes,
carriage,
yes.
and I wanted her to see like what they were trying to make fun of, just so that she could understand like where it came from. And so that was what
Yeah,
prompted
and
us to watch it.
that's a parody. Well, I mean, that's actually a take from a early Russian movie too. But I'm forgetting what the name is, Battle of Potemkin or something. But moving on.
Okay, well, we'll add that to the list, I suppose, of movies. So that might be a little bit of a deep dive for her. And then
Probably not.
the next movie that I wanted to talk about was Goldeneye, because I wanted to revisit the Pierce Brosnan films, because I've always
Yeah.
kind of been not much of a Pierce Brosnan fan. I like Sean Connery, and I like Timothy Dalton, and I can handle some of the other Bonds, but like Roger Moore I like, and but I don't know. I'm not a Pierce Brosnan Bond fan, and just to be upfront with my review here, I'm still not really much of a Pierce Brosnan Bond fan. I'm still going to give him a chance. I'm still going to go through and watch all of them, but I feel like that period in the '90s did a lot of damage to the James Bond franchise. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I think that I don't have a problem with them bringing in Judi Dench as M. I think that she's really good in that role, but I think that they used it in a way that was kind of like, okay, we gotta like call out all the stuff James Bond, because it was the '90s and people forget
Yeah.
there was kind of a turn to political correctness in the '90s. But the thing is, James Bond is like the thing that's attractive about James Bond is it's like unapologetically a throwback to these. It's kind of like, what was that TV show about the ad men? Was it Mad Men?
Mad Men.
Mad Men. I never
Yeah.
saw the show, so I don't really know. But I know that one of the reasons people liked it was kind of a throwback to an era that just doesn't exist anymore, right? And so
Yeah. I'll just interrupt you for a second. It's just, if they want to make Bond movies, they're trying to figure out how to reboot it now and everything. Just set it in the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense in any other time
Yeah,
period.
yeah.
Just go back.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can try to. I mean, they did update it over the years, and I thought that it worked during the Cold War, but by the '90s, it did start to feel like, what are we supposed to do with this now that the Cold War is over, and
And well, it's once again, it's a fish out of water. He's part of his time. I mean, it's like it's like, oh, let's make a King Arthur movie, but we've got to set it today.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just there's historical context to characters.
that might not be a bad idea, but I guess my point about the '90s too is that
King Arthur movie set today, but I don't know.
But they kind of tried to make Bond more likable, and I think that's my problem with Pierce Brosnan. It's actually not a knock on him, because he's a very likable guy. Like, I think I
think he's great.
Yeah,
I like Pierce Brosnan, but as Bond, there are issues. Yeah.
Like, if I had to pick a James Bond that I was going to sit down with and just have a friendly chat with or socially interact with, it would be Pierce Brosnan's James Bond, because he's like much more. He just seems easier to get along with for whatever reason. But I kind of want James Bond to be a little bit of a jerk. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so there's a scene in Goldeneye where and I remember the papers all writing about this. So this is one of the reasons why this was sort of burned in my mind when I watched it again recently. Because when this movie came out, I remember there was an article. It might have been one of the other James Bonds that came out in the next few years, but one of these Pierce Brosnan movie James Bonds came out. And there was a whole article in Newsweek or something about, is it time for James Bond to start using condoms? That was the headline, and they used it kind of talk about all this stuff, and it basically seemed to be an outgrowth of the conversation Judi Dench has with him, where he's kind of bristling at her being the new M, and she calls him a misogynistic dinosaur, and that would have been fine if they did what they did in like the Dirty Harry movie, where I think like the third Dirty Harry movie, where there's a woman who does that to him, and then he kind of responds with like a really sharp retort. But in this one, James Bond had a retort, but it was very. It just didn't really push back enough on. Do you know what I mean? And so,
the other issue too is like, I don't know how old he was, but he comes off as one of the younger looking Bonds, and so calling him a dinosaur, it does like it works in Dirty Harry because Clint Eastwood he's grizzled, kind of into his middle age. It makes sense. It doesn't fit.
That's a good point.
Bond.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
Brosnan's...
and also Judi Dench it's an old person calling a young person a dinosaur. That's the kind of logic these screenwriters have, but whatever.
No, but and so I want to be clear. Judi Dench was good in the role. Like, I do like her as M. I just feel that I just feel like that, and I understand why they were doing it, but I think that it was the wrong move because I think the appeal of the franchise it doesn't need to adapt to the times as much as other franchises. It's kind of got like a good recipe already, and so and also I don't think James Bond works when they're being self-reflective. Like,
no,
one of the things I didn't like about the Daniel Craig Bond was how self-reflective it was, especially in like the Skyfall. And Skyfall actually wasn't a bad movie overall, but it was just so James Bond talking about James Bond, and I didn't.
It's boring. Yeah, it's like, okay, I get it. You're a writer. You're really interested in thinking about this story, but the audience doesn't give a shit. Yeah, it's like, what are you doing? Yeah. It's but yeah. So go ahead. Sorry,
so I was going to say. But in terms of GoldenEye as a movie, it wasn't a bad movie. Like, it was it was a very entertaining action film. What's his name? Sean Bean. Is that Sean Bean? Is that the guy's name? The guy who dies in every movie. Yeah. And it's funny because in this one he dies, then he comes back as the big bad guy. So it's a good move for Sean Bean. I don't remember if this was before or after he kind of got the label of dying in every movie. But if it was already a thing, I think that kind of adds something to it. And the other thing, too, is I was a really big fan of the video game GoldenEye, and I forgot just how much of this film is just, like, sucked right into that video game. So I was having GoldenEye video game flashbacks while I was, right down to things like proximity mines and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the who is the Bond girl in GoldenEye? Let me get my so the Bond the Bond girl was good, but they also had this other Bond girl who was like this mad woman that was like very domineering, and so which felt very 1990s for me too, because there was a lot of that stuff kind of going on in 90s movies. But again, I thought she was entertaining. I thought it worked for the movie, but it kind of stood out as like, oh, this is a dated element from the era.
The issue with putting these lectures in a Bond movie is like going all the way back to the beginning of Bond movies. What are they? They're luxury vacations. You go to exotic locations and fancy hotels and these casinos, and you're just it's all fantasy. It's like nothing. Like the villains aren't realistic in any way. They're just these enjoyable fantasies. And when you start putting all these little things or poking,
well, to be clear,
it doesn't work.
Well, the thing is, I don't know that this was a lecturing character. It was more in line because her name was like something on a top. What was it?
I'm talking in general about the other things you were talking about, not specifically that character. Yeah, I'm kind of going back to the M thing and the condom thing and all of that stuff. Sorry, I'm jumping around.
That's okay.
I just in my brain for a moment and just got it out.
No. But So again, I thought that the commentary on the Bond franchise itself was the weakest part of the movie for sure. Yeah, and I think that it really, I think Brosnan's Bond for me would have been a lot more interesting. And maybe it's hard to do because maybe this just isn't who Pierce Brosnan is. Though I was talking with a friend and he was giving me a list of movies to see, kind of demonstrating that no, Pierce Brosnan does have this kind of grit to him. I think if they gave him a harder edge in this movie, it would have worked better. That's one of the reasons why I like the Dalton movies, because it strikes this nice balance of he feels like a real person with real relationships, but he still has this like real edge to him. Do you know what I mean? Like you feel like he really could kill people, and so I didn't quite get that feeling from Brosnan, and so we're gonna make our way through the rest of them, and we'll see, but. I don't think my reevaluation of Brosnan is going to change. I think the only thing that softens my view of Brosnan now is the Craig era took it in such in like the other direction so far that it's kind of like, okay, that was like a little too much. I think like you still have to have like the humor and the other thing, like, you know what I mean? So
but it's now I think the issue with this introspection thing, where they start analyzing a story within its own story. It's the worst thing you could do to a franchise. It always, I mean, like the first thing we ever reviewed together was Doctor Who.
I was just thinking that.
Like, for example, the whole thing they do, they keep questioning, well, why does the Doctor have companions? Isn't he putting them in danger and having every companion have some tragic finish and the Doctor being conflicted? Like, that's the formula for the show. You were killing your formula, your proven formula, and picking it to death when you could have just left all this crap alone.
And you could always just change the formula if that's an issue, right? Like, you don't have to,
exactly.
But and I think there was this period of movies and shows kind of talking about themselves in a very meta kind of way, and
it's still going on. That's what Star Wars did with The Last Jedi, to shoot itself in the head.
Well, and I think I kind of get why they do that, because there's like an online fan discussion, and they want to get connected to it. But my problem with it is, I'll go back and watch a movie that was made, during, this era of online movie discussions and TV discussions, and it's like, okay, I feel like I'm back. It brings you so much back to that time, because you're like, okay, I know why they did this. I know what people were saying at this time that caused them to do this. And it's kind of like Doctor
Who. The TV tropes page they were reading. Okay.
And it's like, I just did the whole, and again, I think I really like the Stephen Moffat era of Doctor Who. I actually kind of
like a lot of the new Doctor Who, but
But I watched them again with my wife because she hadn't seen them, and some of that stuff really does jump out at you when you watch it in hindsight. It's like, okay, like the whole thing with, is the Doctor evil? Is he good? Like, it's kind of like, at the time I remember being kind of excited about it, but it's like, okay, I kind of realized, okay, like The Sopranos had happened, and then we had like Breaking Bad and The Walking Dead, and they were kind of chasing. Sometimes what ends up happening, and I kind of understand this myself, because like like we make games and stuff like that, so this exists in the RPG industry too, where it's like you'll kind of look over and you'll see somebody else doing something that's like the new hotness, and you'll be like, I wish I was doing it. But the worst thing you can ever do is try to chase the new hotness, when that's like, Moffat is not who's the guy that wrote Breaking Bad? Gilligan, is that the guy's name?
Vince Gilligan.
Vince Gilligan. He's not Vince Gilligan. You know what I mean?
No.
He shouldn't try to be Vince Gilligan. He can do things really well, but if he tries being other people, it just doesn't work. And Doctor Who isn't Breaking Bad. It isn't Walking Dead. You can't, if you turn the show into that stuff, it's just, people are going to hate the Doctor, right? Like, it's just not going to work. So I think that's the other thing that was going on, is there was a lot of shows. And they were probably chasing a lot of British shows too. I'm naming a lot of American shows, but they might have been looking at shows like Luther and stuff like that, and been like, let's be like that show. And you just, there's a place for those kind of shows, but you kind of got to know your franchise. And so I think when Bond, like with the Daniel Craig era, people often say like, oh, they just kind of became the Bourne movies, right? Like, it just became, and it's like, well, I like the Bourne movies, but I don't go to James. It's sort of like you were saying, when I watch a James Bond movie, it's like, I want to go on a vacation. I want to see James Bond be a jerk to somebody in a funny way. I want to see him, meeting all these beautiful women and sleeping with them in like ridiculous scenarios that would never happen to any man in the real world, right? Like it's this fantasy that is not tied to reality. And when you start commenting on it, you're just kind of like destroying the fantasy of it. You know what I mean? And and so and then if you start adding in this gritty, shaky cam Jason Bourne action choreography, it really harms it, because I think one of the beauties of the James Bond movies is it has a very old-fashioned sense of how fights happen and how action unfolds, and it's still always spectacular because they we watched what's the License to Kill not too long ago, and there's James Timothy Dalton did a lot of his own stunts in that movie. I mean, he had stuntmen too, but he did a lot of his own stunts, and some of those airplane stunts were really quite amazing. I don't think I think they had a stuntman when they were actually up in the air, but they were doing like more stationary type things when they needed Dalton, and it was just very impressive for like a movie from that era. You know what I mean? And so, but it didn't look like they were trying to reinvent the wheel either. You know what I mean? It was So, it wasn't.
Now the whole.
They didn't go like full Tarantino or so. This was probably a little before Tarantino, but they didn't go like, now we need to do like meta dialogue and reference the Fonz in our, whatever.
But the whole commentary on on what's happening in the show thing. I mean, it's just so annoying from the standpoint. I remember when I was a kid, there was one other kid I knew who every movie you would watch with him, anytime there was any special effects, it's like, that's fake.
Yeah.
That's fake. That's fake. And it just pulls you out of the movie every time. It's like, yeah, we're watching a movie. I don't know if you know that, but and it feels like that. It's just like, let's put that guy in the movie to point out to everybody that it's fake.
Let's remind you this is a movie. And that's kind of what happens when you start giving James Bond consequences for the fantasy. Like, you can do it artfully, like in Her Majesty's Secret Service. They kind of take things in like a different direction, and it's more dramatic, and there's like a real relationship, and you can do things like that with Bond, and you can also do things like they did during the Timothy Dalton era. But I think I don't know. I think you don't want the whole thing to come crashing down on these things.
I think part of the problem is the studios don't know how to make new characters anymore, because that's why they have to keep reinventing these old characters. Because the thing you should do is like, you watch a Bond movie and you think, I don't like all the womanizing. I think that's fake. I think whatever. You go out and you make a new spy movie with a new character. I mean, I used to be a big science fiction, writing fan, the short stories and that. It's like there'd be these conversations between authors where they're kind of reflecting on each other, and it's great. But they don't pick up the other story and go, I'm going to rewrite their story so it suits my sensibility. Yeah, that's just. Dumb.
No, I think that's a good point, because that's how all genres used to kind of operate. I can actually give you a perfect example of what you're talking about. You've seen have you seen Dragon Inn? I can't remember if we've seen Dragon Inn or not. Okay. So he made that because he saw James Bond and he didn't like the idea of somebody having a license to kill, and he didn't like the whole premise of it. And so he was trying to make a hero who was like the anti-James Bond. That was the idea of that movie. It's almost impossible to see because it's set like during the Ming Dynasty, and so you would never know that. But this soft-spoken hero with the parasol, the reason that he's the way he is because he's not. He's supposed to be the opposite of James Bond. And that's like a really great movie, and that's a perfect example of what you're talking. The lesson isn't. The lesson isn't like you can watch James Bond and be troubled by those elements and say, okay, I'm going to go make a better movie that'll show how to do, you know what I mean? And you make a better movie. But when you start trying to change it so that it's like, I'm going to turn it into the opposite of what it originally was, I think that's not good for a friend. And I'm not saying that's what they did during GoldenEye, but GoldenEye, it feels like the most pablum of the Bond era to me. Do you know what I mean? It's just very... it's very vanilla, everything, and that's why I never really liked Brosnan, because at least in the Dalton era, he wasn't vanilla. There was like a real dark edge to that character in the Dalton era. And he might have lost some of the humor, but he still had that dark edge. And Roger Moore, he at least had like the humor and the I don't know, like the womanizing was like a little bit more. Maybe there was too much of it during the Roger Moore era, but it was still funny. Do you know what I mean? It still was funny. And during Brosnan's period, it was not as funny. Do you know what I mean? It was everything felt a little bit more subdued. At least on my watching of GoldenEye. Maybe I rewatched some of these other ones and it doesn't have that effect. And also, I have friends who love these movies, so I know that a lot of people really do like Brosnan and like GoldenEye.
GoldenEye's very popular. My question, I wonder, I'm not having seen GoldenEye in forever. I don't know myself, but I'm wondering how much of it is Pierce Brosnan and how much, because Pierce Brosnan is very good. I wonder how much was it Pierce Brosnan, how much is it the script he's been given that's creating the problem?
I mean,
in the character?
so here's what I think it is. I think Pierce Brosnan has very kind eyes. You look at Pierce Brosnan and you think that's a really nice guy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I think in almost any other movie that would be a positive quality. Yes. In James Bond, all of the James Bonds, none of them have kind eyes that I can think of. Even Roger Moore doesn't have kind eyes. He's got flirty eyes.
True.
He's got, but they all have there's like a sense of, like Sean Connery looks like an asshole. He doesn't look like a nice guy at all. And so I think that's the component that's missing. And so it's almost like the thing.
Makes sense.
And here's what I think happened. I think people were thinking, oh, James Bond is dark and handsome and suave, and that's why Pierce Brosnan is perfect. But you forget about, no, he's an asshole. He's a jerk. Like there's a real this guy grew up on the wrong side of the tracks kind of element to James Bond too. I'm not saying that the character's supposed to be that, but I'm saying that aspect of Sean Connery comes through in the character. And so
it's interesting to think, because I feel it almost feels like Pierce Brosnan kind of got shortchanged by that call to be Bond, because it's like he was very good in Remington Steele, which was his big breakthrough role, and everyone wanted him to be Bond, and he couldn't be Bond for 10 years. And I feel like almost if people hadn't started that James Bond cry, it's like he might have had a much more interesting career over that time.
No, because I think I like him in other movies. It's just again, I think it comes down to his resting face is too nice, and I mean Sean Connery, his resting expression is so smug and self-satisfied. Do you know what I mean? It's like night and day if you look at a picture of him and Brosnan, and I think everybody compares the current James Bond to Sean. I mean, even if people have another favorite, like I love Timothy Dalton, but you're always going back. Like Connery is like the definitive James Bond, and so I think that if they're not reckoning with Connery as the defining James Bond, they're not. The casting gets thrown off. I think that's why, for me, Craig never really worked, because he just is like too brutish. He's and I know a lot of people like Craig, but there's like Connery's a perfect blend. You know what I mean? Connery is like the exact right balance of the humor is still there's still the humor there with Connery.
Dalton's got a lot of humor. I mean, just go watch Hot Fuzz.
That's what's
hilarious.
That's what's so funny about Dalton, because you see him in all these and even when he did that appearance on Doctor Who, it was hilarious. When he's like pounding his fist and he just it was one of the best performances in that whole run of Doctor Who. But he took a much more serious approach to Bond. I like his James Bond. I really like that the angle that he took. But I understand why people, kind of bounce off of him a bit. And I think if he got a few more movies, he would have people would have warmed up to him. Do you know what I mean? But they didn't. They weren't able to get like a third movie with him. So they were planning one and it just didn't work out. And so. but yeah, so I don't know. That was my thinking on it. And again, I'm sounding like I'm being very harsh, but I actually enjoyed GoldenEye, so I should emphasize that. I had a fun time watching it. You know, if I was giving it, like, if I was rating it like on a star system, I'd say, okay, this is like 3.7 something. You know, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. And I think we're going to have to get going because I think Adam's having a little bit of a tough time.
A little bit.
So we'll head out, and I don't know. We'll hopefully be back on talking about some actual movies me and Adam and Joel have all watched and can really get into. This was kind of, we're just breezing through them. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.